The hysterical behavior of the U.S. House Representative Nancy Pelosi has been a hot topic lately. Pelosi appeared to have panicked after her laptop went missing during the Capitol incident on January 6. The day after the Capitol incident, Pelosi tried to call the Vice President to tell him to accept the 25th Amendment. But he didn't answer her phone for 25 minutes, and eventually the call didn't work that day. And later, Vice President Mike Pence told House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Tuesday that he does not support invoking the 25th Amendment against President Donald Trump. In a hurry, Pelosi phoned the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff Mark Milley and tried to remove the president's command of the military. She said it is dangerous to let Trump handle the nuclear button. However, Mark Milley immediately turned down her proposal, saying that President Trump was still the commander-in-chief and that removing him from military command was tantamount to a military coup. But Pelosi didn't give up. When Vice President Pence rejected the 25th Amendment, Pelosi used the House majority to force the impeachment bill to pass. Pelosi also took photos with the National Guard, which President Trump sent for the security of Congress as if she were in command of the front line. Pelosi confidently called the United States Marine Corps Commander David H. Berger and asked him to send more troops to stop the attacks from the Trump supporters, but he immediately refused. According to U.S. media Real World News, David Berger said something out of anger over Pelosi's request. He says the following: "Don't lecture me on patriotism, Madam Speaker. I've served this country with distinction for 40 years. I've spilled blood for our nation. What have you, a self-serving elected official, done for your country?" And Pelosi further enraged him by saying he was answerable to Congress. And he said that, "I answer only to the President, and as I understand it, Donald J. Trump is still President and Commander-in-Chief. I abide in the Constitution as it was written, not your interpretation of it." General Berger admonished Pelosi and he was unmoved. The only way to use Marines is if President Trump himself gave the order. General Berger allegedly told her, "If you want us to help combat his supporters, I suggest you get him on the phone and tell him that. If he orders me to, I will. Otherwise, I suggest you listen really hard to the words escaping your cracked, poisonous lips. They are tantamount to treason." Some say Pelosi's incomprehensible behavior is due to her fear of the secret she's trying to hide. Indeed, Attorney Leonard and others continue to claim that Pelosi is implicated in horrific crimes. And suddenly, on August 6, the FBI data secretly released by President Trump took the world by surprise, exposing the terrible criminal records of Pelosi's family. This 284-page report is available on FBI's official website, FBI Records, The Vault. I will leave the link in the pinned comment. The data was requested by President Kennedy in 1961 to investigate Pelosi's father, Thomas D. Alexandro Jr.'s connection to the mafia organization and the Communist Party. According to the data, Pelosi's father is an Italian-American who acted as a spokesman for the International Labor Order and contributed to opening the National Council of American-Soviet Friendship. He served as a U.S. congressman and mayor of Baltimore City, but supported the mafia for his children, including Pelosi, to have a long-term influence on American politics. But this is not the end of the really shocking part. Pelosi's brother Franklin D. Alexandro was arrested for an 11 and 13 years old girl with 13 friends at the age of 20, but he was the only one who was acquitted. In addition, this document contains an enormous number of crimes, some of which have simply been blacked out. Maybe those parts were too sensitive to show. Nonetheless, a multitude of crimes are exposed that have put every normal citizen in jail, not only that he worked with the mafia. The police were under his influence too. In this situation, there is some analysis on whether Trump's decision makes Pelosi even more anxious. On January 10, President Trump suddenly created a website related to human trafficking. Even though many people know that Trump used to say he would eliminate human trafficking and pedophile in the United States, it was an unexpected thing. Some wondered why Trump suddenly made a human trafficking website with the State Department with only 10 days left of his presidency. However, on the same day, January 10, when the State Department officially announced it had opened a human trafficking website, Attorney Leawood wrote in Parler that he had evidence of shocking sexual crimes committed by Democrats and Republicans, including Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and even Bill Gates. With a sudden opening of a human trafficking website, there is also an analysis that speculates the decision may be related to the announcement made by Attorney Leawood. In addition, Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, made huge profits by buying a large amount of C-19-related stocks just before the Wuhan pneumonia outbreak last year. Paul Pelosi bought 3,000 shares of Amazon and 5,000 shares of Facebook in January. Paul Pelosi made a buys according to the media named Baron. He did so by exercising call options he held on both companies' stock, which allowed him to buy into both names at substantially lower prices than they were trading that day. Filing and stock data show. This is just the suspicious circumstances. However, in doing so, many people wonder how he could predict the pandemic in advance. How did he buy that Amazon stock with substantially lower prices and also bought that Amazon stock in January of last year? Amazon, the leading beneficiary of C-19 this year, is expected to gain momentum this year as well, according to the UBS. But also Bill Gates predicted 5 years ago that Wuhan pneumonia would occur and even that it would break out in a certain location, the Chinese fishery market in Wuhan. Dr. Fauci, the chief quarantine official in the U.S., invested $3.7 million in the Wuhan Virus Institute in the Obama administration for 6 years. All of these things raised the suspicion that maybe Wuhan pneumonia was caused deliberately from the deep state. If it is true, it would not have been so difficult for Pelosi's husband to get this information in advance. At the same time, President Trump is preparing another round of confidential publications that will cause the stir around the world. It is an evidence that the origin of the Wuhan pneumonia is the Wuhan Virus Institute in China. According to UK media, including the Daily Mail, President Trump will soon be releasing solid evidence that Wuhan pneumonia originated from the Wuhan Virus Institute, and specific evidence will be revealed by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. On January 15, the U.S. State Department released a fact sheet which states that Communist Party of China has been studying C-19. The State Department says Chinese scientists have created conditions in the laboratories that increase the risk of accidental potential exposure and have studied the coronavirus derived from the animals. In particular, the Wuhan virus lab in China has been conducting confidential research, including experimental animal experiments, which are required to produce viruses on behalf of the Chinese military. In addition, the State Department says it has the right and obligation to judge whether other national research institutes, including those in the U.S., has diverted funds to secret military projects in China. Also, on January 13, Trump proposed strengthening the president's executive order to punish all transactions related to the Chinese Communist Party. On November 12 of last year, Presidential Executive Order 13959, signed by Trump, came into effect with additional provisions. This executive order prohibits investment, purchases, and all kinds of transactions with more than 35 Chinese companies owned or controlled by the CCP. Violations of this law result in severe penalties for individuals and business associations, including fines, detention, and confiscation of assets as well. With this administrative ordinance, the Democratic Party is now a state of emergency. Problem is the company named West Executive Advisors. Because of the people who would join the new Biden administration, Joe Biden's new appointment of Antony Blinken as Secretary of State, former Assistant Secretary of Defense Michelle Flournoy, who is expected to hold senior positions in the Biden administration, and former deputy director of the CIA, David Cohen, was among the candidates directly fined for being a member of West Executive Advisors. West Executive Advisors was a company that advised U.S. companies on how to obtain investment from China, or consulted U.S. companies on entering and investing in China. However, in the media, Politico once reported that although the company began advising in earnest from 2017, it was a secret company that did not disclose any client list or advice. ABC also reported, "There are voices calling for transparency from people who have worked for West Executive Advisors and will be the part of the Biden administration because little is known about the company they founded 2 years ago." Even if Joe Biden takes over the next administration, Trump's new executive order allows people of the new Biden administration to hold hearings, withdraw nominations, or arrest under the label of the people who has made a deal with the CCP. Under these circumstances, 45 Republicans and 16 Democrats were infected with C-19 on the day of the January 6th in Capitol. Since it is known that 4 Republicans did not wear the mask in the same room, there was another conflict between two parties. It seems more and more unlikely that the fight between Republicans and Democrats will simply end in the future. What do you think of this video? Thanks for watching. Your comments and likes. Be safe.